Hey guys, thanks for joining. Today I'm going to show you what my second flight at flight school looked like in the simulator. Uh, Obviously, it's not as good as being in the actual cockpit with me, but we'll go through some of the maneuvers we did. I will just show you everything that kind of came to mind while I was doing it, things I thought of, things that felt funny or were new and uncomfortable, because you will likely have similar feelings or experiences. Um, so a couple quick things about my setup. I'm using the Honeycomb Aeronautical Trio, the Alpha, Bravo, and Charlie pedals. Um, we're in a Cessna 172 Skyhawk with the glass panel. My flight school has the regular 6-pack gauge, so it does not have a glass cockpit like this. It's the standard. So it's a little bit different here, but a lot of similarities in how everything works. I kind of skipped through all of the stuff like the pre-flight, the run-up, the taxing, just to kind of get to the meat of everything. If you guys are interested in a video where I do some of that stuff, I can definitely do that. But just kind of want to walk you through what I've done so far, and we'll get off to the races here so you guys can see it. I'm at the end of the taxiway here. I did my run up, so I'm going to get her started now. So we're parked, got the parking brake set. I did the run up. I'm gonna do my mock call out. I don't have the actual thing linked up here, but basically I practice my call outs as if I were actually in the plane. That way I can stumble through it here and be a little more proficient when I'm actually out there with my instructor. So Kankakee traffic, Skyhawk, Alpha Sierra, X-Ray Golf Sierra, departing runway 22 to 3,500 feet. Kankakee traffic. So you see I stumbled there. I said 3,500 instead of 3,500. So I'm going to try it again. Kankakee traffic, Skyhawk Alpha Sierra, X-Ray Golf Sierra, departing runway 22, straight out to 3,500 feet, Kankakee traffic. So I'm going to release my parking brake. We're going to throttle up, get her moving. So typically, it doesn't work very well in sim, but I would check that the runway's clear. Nothing's coming in over the radio, nothing coming into my right or left. Get her out onto the runway. Get it nice and centered. And then I'm going to throttle all the way up to pretty much all the way in. 35 or 2,500 RPMs. Just get it up to about 65 knots and then rotate. Nice and gentle. Try to keep it straight on the ascent here. And the nice thing about the glass cockpit is you can kind of see where the runway is beneath you. The first few times you take off, it just feels weird, just like getting pulled up into the air, but let's see. So basically I am setting during our ascent, we're going to try to keep it 75 to 80 knots. Throttles all the way in. It's a little bit different because in my trainer plane, the speedometer is all in miles per hour, whereas in sim everything's in knots. So a little bit different. So when my instructor says, hey, keep it between 75 and 80, miles per hour, it's not exactly the same as knots. So it's a little conversion you got to do, but you get over it. Still ascending. So another thing, when you're doing flight sim stuff, it's hard because you have to reference things in a real airplane. when you're trying to fly VFR, you're not gonna always have that. You're not gonna have a vantage like this. It might be a little more in, or it might look different, because you see how I can see the cowl from this view, and you're gonna use that to reference certain maneuvers. For example, when we were ascending, my instructor wanted me to keep the dash kind of on the horizon as a reference to like a good, keep the dash on the horizon, and that way we're ascending kind of consistently at the same speed. We don't have to worry about staring at the speedometer that much. We can kind of check it quickly, but for the most part, we should be just ascending pretty well. And I think that's something you have to get used to. You just have to get used to like referencing everything to the horizon. Check your surroundings. Make sure nothing's around here. We're flying out of the Kankakee, Illinois airport, which is Kilo India Kilo Kilo. That's my home airport, so I've been training through there. And we're just almost up there to 3,500 feet, 3,500. So I'm going to slow it down to 2,100 RPM, reduce the throttle a little bit, fix my pitch. I'm obviously all over the place right now. See, as a new pilot, it's kind of hard because it's very easy to get distracted on one thing, and then next thing you know, you're up 100 feet in altitude while you're focusing on something else. So it just takes getting used to the multitasking, different things in the aircraft. So, all right, back to around 3,500 feet, 3,500. Got a good little cruise thing going on here. See if I can trim it for straight and level. Nose up a little. So I'm just adjusting my trim wheel here just to kind of relieve any extra pressure off the yoke. And it takes a little getting used to. Alright, that looks pretty good. Oh. Alright. A lot of what we did, a lot of basic references. So, my instructor will tell me, okay, put me on a south heading. So we're obviously at 220. Give it a little. So we're just going to bank a little bit, nice shallow bank. Walk it over to south. So what's nice around where I live is you can see cornfields. Everything's pretty square. So most of the roads are north-south or east and west. So you can use that as a good reference point to where you want to be. So, a lot of the maneuvers we'd be doing were, okay, we're at a good cruise altitude, we're facing south, 180 heading, make a bank to the north, or 360, while maintaining altitude. So we're at about 3,500. And then we're just going to bank it, try to keep a good, maintain our altitude. Forgot to clear the runway, or the airspace for other planes. Might be hitting a little bit of turbulence here, but alright, I'll roll it back out. Not exactly right on the money, but it's okay. That's why we are practicing. A little practicing here and there and making sure, I forget what it's called, I think it's the ACS, but it's kind of like the guidelines of how well you have to perform the maneuvers on your exams. So a little bit of that, and it's like, okay, we did our 180 turn. Now he'll give me something like, okay, let's turn back south, but let's descend to 2,500. So then if we're going to do a descending turn, I'm going to reduce my throttle. I'm going to clear the airway here, make sure I don't see any planes. And then I'm going to see if we can do a nice 180 turn while descending. We're obviously going to pick up some speed. I'm going to level it off to the south. And then I'm just going to keep descending. I think in training we actually did a full 360 turn while dropping 1,000 feet in altitude, but for my little show and tell here, I'm just going to drop it to 2,500. Pull back our throttle a little bit. And then I'm going to round it off a little bit. Get us back to... Whoa, a little glitchy. Alright. Get it back to cruise. Get me back to 2,500. See, this is something that I just need to practice. Trying to hit a number and stay within that altitude. It's hard when you're multitasking, you're trying to do 3 things at once, and I think it just comes with time. So, okay, we're back at 2,500. So for our next trick, I'm going to do a full 360, but I want to land on the 090 heading and go up to 3,500 again. So I'm going to throttle up, and we're gaining altitude. I'm going to try to just keep the slice of the pie. So basically the reference point of the cowl of the engine to the horizon, the same, so that way I have the same kind of ascent rate. Everything's smooth sailing. Okay, we're at 3,000. 180 degrees to go. Getting a little heavy on my rudder pedal. See, that's kind of messed everything up, but that's okay. Need to just be more conscientious of my rudder pedals. So we're coming in here. We're gonna ease up, and we're facing east. Another 100 feet to go. And there we are. Okay. So we're going to pull back to cruise. Reduce our throttle to about 2,100. A little more. So that was something that we did differently this time, was when you're making adjustments with your throttle, to listen to the airplane. That's something that's kind of not as easy to do in sim. When you're flying with, you know, when you're throttling up, when you're throttling back, you can hear the different pitch of the engine and know kind of how it's performing. So that's something that will take some getting used to, and that I can probably only really do in flight training at the school. So, all right, we're at 3,500. Let's do something a little different. This one's pretty fun. I'm going to turn to the north now, just for fun, just so I don't lose track of where I'm at, because I don't have anything plugged in. But essentially, what we did is we did 45-degree bank practice. So it'll be probably the steepest turn you've done so far in a plane, and it's going to feel pretty crazy because not, for me as an outsider, you don't know the capabilities of a small airplane, a GA plane, because you've never been in one, so you don't know what it feels like. It doesn't feel like when you're, on a 747 going somewhere. So what we're going to do here, we're at about 3,500. We're going to throttle up, and we're going to bank it all the way to 45 degrees. We're going to pull back on the yoke, and when you do it in real life, you kind of feel your face melt a little bit because you're actually pulling like 1.5 Gs. And it's pretty fun. It's a pretty good experience. So we're going to throttle up. I'm going to press into the turn with the left rudder pedal, and then we're going to try to maintain our altitude while we do it. So let's see here. Throttling up, and then we maybe turn out of it a little bit. Ooh, we're descending. I did it better in practice. So you can see you gotta find like the perfect line, and then ease back out. So I think I did it better in practice, in the actual airplane. Let me get back to 3,500, throttle back. All right. We're going to try that again, but we're going to do it the opposite direction, which is what we actually did. But it's really hard to find the right line. You're pulling back, and your body just feels crazy while you're doing it, and it's a bit of a rush. But so we're going to do a full 360 spin at a 45-degree bank. I'm going to throttle up, 2,400. Step into the turn a little bit. And we're going to see if we can find the line here. Ooh. Ooh. There we go. A little bit better. So what's crazy when you do that full turn and you're coming out of the turn, you're rolling back to level flight, you'll feel like a crazy jolt, which is actually like the wingtip vortices, like being thrown off the wings. I think that's what's happening. But you can feel it. As soon as you roll out, it just kind of jolts you. So makes you feel like Top Gun a little bit. Here, I'm going to do one more since we're still at the perfect 3,500. So we're still already throttled up. And give it a little step into the turn. And then try to maintain 3,500. Got to roll out a little bit. Come on. All right. Overshot it a little bit, but it's okay. Practice makes perfect. We're going to keep practicing. And that way, when we go to do it in the real plane, it's not as foreign. We're a little more polished. And get it right. So I think I'm gonna do one more. I'm just not happy with what I'm seeing. So we're throttled back. 3,500. I'm gonna throttle up. Step into the turn. I'm going to try to make sure I don't gain too much altitude. Try to keep it straight and level. Pulling back on the yoke. A little bit better. A little bit better. Swinging around, we're facing west. Oh, we're losing it. Coming back to north. Rolling out. Reducing throttle. So you can see I lost it. I lost my train of thought there. I was looking at the heading and I lost my visual reference and I started to dip my nose down, but we made it back. We only lost 40 feet of altitude. So things to remember: don't lose your train of thought, don't get distracted. So as you can see, the airport's right there, or off to my left. We're gonna drop it down to about 2,000 feet above the ground. I believe our airport is about 650 feet above sea level. So the traffic pattern's about probably 1,000 feet above that. So 1,600 feet. I'm going to enter in at 2,000 and then kind of work my way down. So the cool thing when I was doing this with my flight instructor was it had just snowed all night. So I was almost worried that we weren't going to be able to fly. I didn't know the rules of like what's a go and what's a no-go. But since he's rated for pretty much everything, he said don't worry about it. As long as I'm rated up to 30 mile per hour, 30 knot winds, we're good. So everything was covered in snow. It's really cool to see up above. Like, it's so cold and snowy. Everything's white. You can see like the crystals in the air, and it's really beautiful to look at, and you don't get that view on the ground. Like, you just don't. So something to think about. Another added bonus of flying is just the adventure of it. So still descending. But with that being said, I flew I didn't do the landing on this flight. The first flight, we got rushed because there was a lot of traffic. The second flight, there was so much snow and ice on the runway, like it was packed. We even got a call over the radio from the previous plane that had landed, and they said it was pretty slick. So my instructor let me fly the pattern, and then he took over on final, and he did the landing. So we're at about 2,000 feet. I'm going to try to level off here. Get us turned back around if I could. Come on. There we go. Put a little more oomph into it. Alright, so right over the river. You can see the airport. We got to call out. Can't keep traffic. Skyhawk, Alpha Sierra, X-Ray Golf Sierra, 3 nautical miles southwest of airport, inbound to land, runway 22, can't keep traffic. So, nailed it that time. Probably missed a small detail here and there, but, I'm learning. It's easy when I can hear my instructor give call-outs, and that way I know, like, crap, I forgot to add that small little detail. So we're going to enter in at a 45 parallel to runway 22, which is the heading this way. So we're entering roughly, we're almost there. So we're still about 1,200 feet above the pattern. I'm going to give it a call out. Can't keep traffic, Skyhawk, Alpha Sierra, X-Ray Golf Sierra, on downwind, runway 22, can't keep traffic. So I'm going to try to land the plane, even though I didn't do it in my training session. No, it might just be fun to see what I know. I'm going to reduce my speed here. And that way we can deploy our first set of flaps. So you can see that's going to be our runway right there, 22. We're parallel with it. All right, we need to reduce more. We're about 1,000 feet above the runway right now. I believe we're within range of deploying our flaps. So I'm waiting until I have like a good 45-degree angle of where I want to touch down, which is going to be that mark, the very first marking right after the grass. Maybe I'll go obviously shoot beyond that, but okay, we're gonna turn to base. Can't keep traffic. Alpha Sierra, X-ray Golf Sierra, turning base, runway 22. Can't keep traffic. All right, turning base. We're over the river. I'm gonna deploy my second set of flaps. I'm gonna reduce my throttle a little bit. I'm still probably a little bit high, but that's okay. Let's see here. Okay, I can see the runway there. Can't keep traffic. Skyhawk Alpha Sierra, X-ray Golf Sierra, turning final, runway 22. Can't keep traffic. All right, we're on final. Got it fairly lined up. I'm gonna deploy my last set of flaps down to 30 degrees. Fairly lined up. We've got our indicator light there. The poppy lights. Poppy. Looks good so far. 60 knots. Give us a little more power. Nice and lined up. We're going to use our rudders to kind of get us lined up a little bit there. Okay. Pulling power. Back to idle. And then I'm going to do my round out here. Round out. Ooh. Shoot, I didn't pull my power all the way. It's okay. And then we'll settle down. Okay, nose wheels down. And we're going to pull our yoke back and we're going to aerodynamic brake. As long as we keep that nose wheel on the ground. Alright, here we go. Yoke's all the way back. If there was a crosswind, we'd put some correction in. Using just the rudders. I'm not using the brakes on the actual pedals because I think it's usually only advisable in certain situations unless you really need to. In this situation, I didn't really need to. So I think we're at a good taxi speed now. I'm going to get off the runway as fast as I can here. Throttle up a little bit. Taxiway right here. And we're off the taxiway. Ooh, coming in hot. Slow her down. Alright. Make sure there's nothing coming across the taxiway. And then we're going to keep on taxiing. You're in my way, car. That's right, I'll just scooch around him here. Here, I'll slow down. Going way too fast. Don't hit the wings. Alright, so I'm just gonna pop a squat right over here. These little animated guys don't really do anything. So here we are, we're gonna set our parking brake, throttle back to idle, and then I'll shut off the engine. So there you have it. Basic second flight. We did a lot of checking our reference, making sure we know our heading, basic banks, ascending banks, descending banks, 45-degree banks. That was the majority of it, flying the pattern. A lot of it's just kind of familiarity, getting more comfortable. What we learned wasn't, super deep knowledge, but it's the matter of getting hands-on experience, feeling the buttons, seeing how things feel. Like when you're pulling 1.5 Gs, it feels cool, but it also feels very different. You don't feel that in a car unless you're in a really fast car. You just don't. you don't feel yourself getting pressed down into the seat and your face dripping off. So it's kind of exciting, and it lets you know how capable the aircraft is, a lot of these things. Because to me, you think, well, this isn't a fighter jet. I can't really crank on this thing without, I don't want the plane to fall apart in the sky, but these things are designed to do this within reason. But I hope you guys enjoyed. Essentially, I'm going to try to do this every flight that I do in flight school. That way you guys get an idea of what to expect as you're first starting out in flight school. So my flight school, I think it's called Part 61. There's no set curriculum. It's up to my flight instructor to see where I'm at and what I need help on. You might be at a different phase. You might be more proficient at something than I am. You might be behind something more than I am. And you guys can focus on what you need work on. The purpose of this is I'm just sharing my experience. It's also practice for me to go over what I learned in class and also have the opportunity to share with you guys what I learned. That way, when it's your turn, you can kind of expect, something you've already seen. It's not totally unfamiliar. You're not going to get to do a 45-degree bank and be like, whoa, I didn't expect that. You could say, oh, I saw another guy do it on YouTube. So, very fun stuff. I think I booked 3 hours for this flight, and it was just kind of slow going. We still did all of the pre-trips, fueling, the run-up, walk-arounds, making sure we're familiar with everything, taxiing, all that stuff. All that stuff just eats up time, and before you know it, the flight is over, and you're signing your logbook of what you did. So feel free to add any comments. This might not have been the most exciting thing, but this is how it happened. And if you guys are looking for more detail on certain things, or you have requests of what I can show you in the future, please feel free to add them. I'm going to put a link below of the flight school that I've been using, the Sporties. It's very popular. It's very good. I'm most of the way through that. I'm about to start doubling back and just covering everything. There's just so much information. A lot of the stuff just takes practice. But feel free to reach out. I'd love to share. I'm going to share more. I'm going to keep practicing. I'm going to share more of my practice sessions with you guys. I know this isn't as good as filming in the cockpit of a plane. I'm working up to that. I've got the nice little stream set up here for the sim, which I use for my own practice. So this is a little more higher priority for me than just getting a camera set up for the plane. And I also don't want to be overly distracted while I'm trying to learn in the plane. Eventually we'll get there when I'm a little more comfortable and I can share real footage with you guys of how it goes there. But for now, keep joining in. I'm just going to keep hitting some practice sessions, covering what I've already learned, and I'll probably do some other stuff too, where I'm branching out, doing different airports, different scenarios, things of that nature to keep things engaging. So, thank you very much for joining. I appreciate you guys. I'm hoping you're having fun in your training. It's as hard as it is and as much as there is to learn, it's still super exciting, super fun. I'm sure you guys are just as much of a nerd as I am. So learning all the little details doesn't feel like work. It just feels fun. So thanks for watching. Subscribe, like. We'll see you next time.